everybody. Happy Sunday morning live. So, I hadn't really planned anything to talk about this morning, but I probably need to go over some of this information again regarding cancer cures and all the different cures that are out there. And the biggest baby is the cancer cures that are out there, okay? And why it is that you would go to jail for selling cancer cures. Not making claims, because it's not about the FDA being the only one that can make those kind of claims, which they can be, but not because of what you think, because we do live in a conspiracy world where everybody thinks the government is out to get them. Well, I am a reformed conspiracy theorist. Hey, Barbara. I'm a reformed conspiracy theorist, and the reasoning is because I am not extreme anymore. I'm neither all the way to the left or all the way to the right. I'm neither way behind the 8-ball or way the other side. I am right there in the middle. And the reasoning why is because I finally got my hormones and my system balanced correctly, which then has me understand how the system and why and how the world works. Okay? So when I developed this protocol, I then rolled it out to the public. And we weren't sure exactly. I knew I received major results in my world, and I knew it could get translated into everybody else's world because they came from the standpoint that everybody is human, we're all universally the same, and you would all get benefit, just a matter of how it would manifest for you. And it's all individual because everybody has a different set of things they do bring to the table. Okay, so we really didn't articulate. We knew pain was healing back then because that's what I said, but I wasn't able to articulate exactly what it was. I didn't even understand hormones at the sense that I understand now after about 2.5 years of research. So I just knew that, yeah, pain is healing and you'll go through it no different than detoxing. No different than detoxing. So I was able to reference back to the holistic world. And when they take all these different cures and detoxes, there is pain involved. And so Jilly Juice back then, how I explained pain was no different than dealing with detoxing symptoms. However, I didn't articulate the difference between the holistic world detox symptoms and then Jillian's detox symptoms. But then I now since changed that symptom name to be healing symptoms so it doesn't get confused with the holistic world. Excuse me. So anyways, so fast forward to where I got on Dr. Phil, which is actually about a year ago that I was preparing to get on Dr. Phil because of a few people didn't understand pain, didn't understand what was going on. I wasn't articulating very correctly because it was still in the experimentation stage. And so, but I knew what I was doing was correct because we were in the right context. Salt was never poisonous, water was never poisonous, and lactobacillus, it's a probiotic, okay? And then cabbage and kale is not poisonous. So I knew that nothing was wrong with my drink. People just weren't understanding the manifestations that were going on. All right, so then right before Dr. Phil aired, because I taped in March of 2017, and then I think it was 2017 of March, or is it 2018? Yeah, it's 2018 of March. Then and then the Ohio Attorney General got a hold of me. Everybody kept reporting me to the Ohio Attorney General. They kept reporting me, and I'm like, damn, Jesus. They're like, oh yeah, we're calling the FBI, we're calling the government, we're gonna get the government on your ass, we're gonna call the FDA on you. I'm like, I'm not selling a product. Okay, I can, and I wasn't really too savvy on advertising because I don't have an advertising lawyer. This is something that's totally new to me. I'm not going to be lawyering up right off the bat. When you lawyer up right off the bat, it means that you have something to hide. I had nothing to hide, so I had no reason to lawyer up right off the bat. So my government was going to be the one to be my lawyer of sorts. They were going to hold me accountable for violations of anything or let me know what it is they expect from me in this regard. So the Ohio Attorney General asked me like 10 questions, and they wanted me to substantiate all the claims that I was making, whether regrowing limbs and organs, to reversing the aging process, to regenerating cells, even if you're born without them. Um, Thanks, Barbara. And then some other stuff that was very highly political that the mainstream cannot get off of, as far as gender stuff. So anyway, so then I dug deep. As soon as I received that letter, and I thought it was a fake letter too. I really didn't think it was real, but I thought it was a fake letter. So I had to actually call up and ask them, is this a real letter? Because I have a lot of haters that are like to fake stuff and pretend stuff. So they did confirm it was real. So I'm like, okay. So then, of course, everybody around me at that time galvanized, and they were like, okay, what do we got to do to prove this? Here's this article about this. Here's this article about this. Take a look at this about tadpoles growing their tails or something. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I started learning about the innate and the adaptive immune system. So that's when the research really became even deeper, was when I was forced to prove everything. And then one of the questions was, is if to prove that my recipe is a probiotic. Now I could say that it is because of this recipe, and they're all over their fermentation websites. But somebody asked me a very poignant question. Have you ever thought of getting your recipe tested? And I'm like, no, actually, I have not thought about that. What would they test for? I mean, I didn't know what they would test for. And people didn't know either. They're like, well, just get it tested for something. I'm like, okay. So I do my research and I call up a bunch of different labs and ask them, well, when I send you this recipe, what do you test for? Well, we test for nutritional content, and really what the biggest issue was back then was the lactobacillus count. Because we have a lot of trolls that say, oh yeah, we were doing the count of lactobacillus and there really hardly is any lactobacillus in 3 days. I mean, that was the biggest issue, was the 3 days in the time and the temperature and the ratios. And so they were saying it wasn't probiotic. So then I had to prove that it was probiotic in the 3 days. 3 days at between 65 and 72 degrees or higher, with the ratios of like 2 cups of loosely packed cabbage, 2 cups of water, and 1 tablespoon of pink salt. And so I said, okay, so that was one of the biggest concerns, that they said it wasn't probiotic. They're saying, oh yeah, she's promoting moldy cabbage to everybody and saying it does this, this, and that. So yeah, in that context, I could see where somebody would be like, what the fuck? If they'd never heard of fermentation, for one, and if they don't understand the science behind fermentation. So yeah, I could see where someone that doesn't know anything would be thinking I'm trying to promote moldy cabbage and make all these crazy claims. No, I've done my research. So then what I did was I just took my recipe in a little jar after I did it for 3 days, sent it off to this lab. I asked this lab, well, at first I did the research and I found out this lab, they test for only lactobacillus. There's no reason to test for nutrient content, because it's because the numbers with nutrient content will always go up and down. So if you were to take your jar of cabbage or kale and you're trying to hold, and trying to see if the nutrient numbers are the same, they could be different any given moment in time. It just depends, the conditions. It just depends. But the nutrients are in there. A matter of how much, it doesn't even matter how much. I mean, there's nutrients in cabbage. When the cabbage grows the way it grows, forget the whole GMO and pesticide stuff. The cabbage grows the way it grows. It looks fine. Even if you see tomatoes with like several different tomatoes attached, it's still a tomato. It just has some mutations, but it doesn't take away from the nutrient content in it. The look looks different. That's it. Okay. And then you have pink cabbage or purple cabbage. It has a different nutrient content because the color. Savoy cabbage to Napa cabbage to red cabbage, they're all nutrient. They have different amounts of nutrients based upon which type you get. Okay, but there's still nutrients in there. Okay, it's what your body needs. Kale too. So I didn't do the nutrient content. I just did the lactobacillus count. Okay, So I sent that off to the lab, got involved with that person that sold, got involved, meaning that she really wanted to know why I was doing this. And it was really crazy because she was a PhD. She's like, "Oh yeah, I love what you're doing," but then she was trying to tell me how to write my paper for the OAG and how to do this and how to do that. But she wasn't fully agreeing with everything, and it was just kind of crazy. So I had to kind of separate myself from that situation and just get the results. So I sent everything off, filled out paperwork, sent everything off. It took, I don't know, I forget how long it took. But they sent everything back, and the first thing it said was that the first initial findings that it was the lactobacillus count was too numerous to count. Okay? And so there's a reasoning behind why the OAG was asking me if you can prove that this is a probiotic. Because that would mean that it would take me out of the antibiotic category, which is poison. Okay? So I'm proving this. So when they sent me that initial finding that it was the colony forming units were too numerous to count, but this was not the official answer just yet. They were just saying this is the initial findings, just giving you a heads up. And we're going to have to dilute it and then count the lactobacilli. So then I got another email I don't know if it's a week or so later or what, but then they finally came up with their formal findings, which you can actually go to the OAG yourself and go look for Jilly Juice, okay, or something, and download my whole report that I sent to them, as well as the findings from the lab, the independent lab. And it's reputable too. It's not some fly-by-night somewhere else where they don't give a shit. No, this is a very reputable lab. I paid $100, okay? So they finally gave me the official report that says there's like 13 million colony forming units that are in this recipe. Vindicated. This wasn't a cure, which is poison, that the OAG and the FDA and everybody else would have to then say, okay, what the hell is she doing? No, this is a probiotic. But this is a revolutionary way of drinking it and the way of making it and the potential of it. Now, you can't make claims. Now, here's the thing where I was getting held under fire for was making absolute claims. Because in the area of health and wellness, in advertising, it's all about the cures. You can't make claims because you can't really guarantee them because it's not in a controlled circumstance. So yeah, I understand that under the Federal Trade Commission, and that's when I did submit my report finally. I never received any word from the OAG. They left it alone. They weren't going to substantiate and they weren't going to deny it. They just want to see the proof that it was a probiotic. I think if it wasn't a probiotic, if they found from the lab that it wasn't a probiotic, that it was something who knows what, then yeah, I probably would have been told to cease and desist. But no, I was never told to cease and desist with anything that I was doing because it's not a poison, it's not antibiotic, it's a probiotic. But it's the right type of probiotic, not just any old probiotic, it's the right type. The only thing that I was held accountable for was the advertising, by which then I changed everything in my website to reflect the Federal Trade Commission guidelines when it comes to health and wellness. Now, for me to be able to make any type of claims, I would have to fall under the cures industry, the FDA. What is the FDA? What are they there for? Oh, yeah, it's the Food and Drug Administration. Well, sauerkraut or Jilly Juice is food. I wouldn't be held under the drug side of it because Jilly Juice isn't a drug. What is a drug? A drug is an antibiotic. It has negative properties that, if not administered correctly under controlled conditions on some level or supervisory conditions like having a doctor, you can't sell or make claims or put anything like that out there. So guess what the cures are? They are poisons that are administered by the biotech, and then regulated by the FDA. Well, why does the FDA have to go and regulate the food and the drug? Because of antibiotic qualities, anti-life qualities. What makes cannabis and opium and methamphetamines and all the different drugs out there like category 1 drugs or whatever those categories are? Because they're antibiotic. So on this natural news. Natural news is all about proliferating poisons without any kind of supervision. All of the holistic market is about proliferating poisons without anybody doing any kind of test to see if you can handle the antibiotic count. They're like, oh yeah, because it's natural, it means that it's safe. That's the fallacy that goes on out there. This is what the FDA and the government and biotech and whatever all have to deal with. People do not understand that when you are taking something that has an herb quality, an antibiotic quality for cancer or anything else, you have to understand what kind of antibody overload you are taking in. And maybe you can't afford that antibody overload. The thing with why baking soda isn't talked about as a cure. Why is it that they're not saying that baking soda is a cure or other things are a cure? Because it's not been tested by the FDA to make sure that when it's administered correctly, where it's not going to cause irreparable harm to a human who has no understanding of how their body works. If you have no understanding of how your body works, and here's some charlatan with their herb or their antibiotic recipe or plant or concoction comes around and says, hey, I got a cancer cure. Don't go to your doctor. It doesn't need to be regulated by the FDA. And then a person takes it and they die. Well, yeah, there's a direct correlation. Look at the antibody count from the point of when they took that herb or whatever antibiotic type of cure for cancer. They can see that there is a direct correlation to somebody dying, because antibodies compound the system and they will shut the body down. That's what antibodies do. When you take something that is antibiotic like cannabis or kombucha, well, kombucha, that'll just feed your cancer. But like vinegar, like apple cider vinegar, like what else? Dandelion root, ashwagandha, essential oils, those are all antibiotic. You take so many of those, they will shut the body down. Because what's going on is you're creating antibodies from that pathogen. It's not bringing to surface like they say in the detox world. No, the detox world, when you're detoxing out there in the holistic world, taking in bentonite clay or diatomaceous earth or turpentine, those are poisons, right? All of those are poisons. They're excess heavy metals that are poisoning the body, and the body then creates natural killer cells, and yeah, it may detox you or take away some of the symptoms. It doesn't really detox, it takes away some of the symptoms, but it doesn't fix the issue. So you're still now you're left even more depleted. Now you're left even more depleted. And this goes along with your request, Harriman Love Guthridge, is that when you take on too many antibiotics, like cannabis, like all of your different prescription drugs, like all of your lifestyle, you're taking all the detoxes, you're taking in the herbs, you're taking in all the negative elements in the holistic allopathic world. It could potentially, just like it happened to Luke Perry, shut your heart down. Heart problems, cardiovascular issues is based upon how many antigen is in your body and how many antibodies are in your body. And then guess what? It thickens the blood and it shuts your heart down because you don't understand antibody acquisition, antibody count. And then all the stress out there and people doing all the crazy activism and stuff, that also creates antibodies as well. So when you are putting out there an antibiotic and claiming you have a cure, That's only for the FDA. The reason why is because the FDA has to make sure that this cure has been properly tested, so they understand that if a person is coming to them with cancer or some other disease, are they a candidate for this cure? Because the cures will kill you out there. But guess what? Jelly juice isn't a cure. Jelly juice is not antibiotic. It already proved it was a probiotic. So that's why Jillian is not in jail, because I am working with a pro-life type of concoction that has manifestations that people don't understand, and they think it's criminal because they've been told that they need to inhibit the prostaglandin hormone, which aids in the healing process. So when pain comes to surface when they're taking jelly juice, they think I'm trying to kill them, when really, actually, technically, I'm not, because probiotics will not kill you. The antibiotics will. The cannabis will kill you. You're taking in more poisons, more antibiotics, and to create more THC antibodies that will thicken the blood and cause heart attacks. That's why cannabis is so dangerous. That's why the legalization of it is so dangerous. But hey, you know what? You can't legislate morals. That's why they couldn't stop prohibition, because when people are addicted to their drugs that are going to eventually kill them, they're going to find a way to go and lobby Congress to go make it something that is legal for everybody because it's natural. But you know that mercury is natural? You know uranium is natural? You know poison oak is natural? Are you going to be taking uranium and poison oak to deal with your cancer? No, because the properties are antibiotic. They will kill you. But guess what? Jillian's product, Jillian's recipe is probiotic. It ain't going to kill you. If anything, you will kill you because of your ignorance. Ignorance kills people. And so that's why Interpol went after that guy that was selling herbs in Ecuador or other areas, because he's killing people with antibiotics. But you have to understand what constitutes an antibiotic. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's used as anything that's used as a cure in the allopathic holistic world. Anything that's used as a cure is antibiotic. A cure means temporary. It's not reversing the condition. It's not fixing your condition. It is temporary, inhibiting the prostaglandin hormone. And it is used to then lower your cancer numbers. But now you have a high amount of antibodies that are causing more mutations, causing more thickening of your blood, to then cause cardiovascular and heart attack issues. Why do you think that heart attacks and heart disease is the number one thing that kills people? Because people's lifestyles take in all this antigen, all of these negative elements and herbs, and then guess what? It thickens up their blood. Right, Kevin? I watched a YouTube talk about the so-called healing mushroom and fungus. Yeah. They think because there's more immune system activity and more antibodies count after ingesting that fungus is a good thing. Yeah, because no different than when you're taking in a bunch of vaccines or somebody's taking in a bunch of negative elements. The whole point of the vaccine industry is to create an overactive immune system so you don't ever get sick. But that's being too over, that's when you have too much of an overactive immune system, because you should get sick. I'm not should get sick, but if you do get in contact with a pathogen your body doesn't recognize, yeah, you want to have an antibody to go after it, but then you also want to fix the mutation. When you see someone that never gets sick, but they're actively aging, it means they have an overactive immune system, so they don't get the symptoms of sickness when they come in contact with pathogens. But their body is now slowly being destroyed and decayed. And yeah, you can go get all your beauty, you can wear all the makeup you want, you can get all the facials you want, you can go do all the exercises you want to make you look like you're healthier. But your face shows the degradation of how many antibodies you are sustaining. And then, yeah, you're at risk for heart disease. Okay, so just because you don't get a cold or a flu or something else at all and you've been in contact, or you get over your sickness really quickly, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily healthy. It just means that you have an overactive immune system. But that's going to be the death of you at some point. But that's what the system is shooting for, because remember, it's all about temporary cures. Vaccines and activating your immune system whether through homeoprophylaxis or something else, is about temporary benefits, but with long-term negative consequences. And so not getting sick, see, and then that's where it all comes about balance. Because saying that I never get sick is all relative to the context. Well, why don't you ever get sick? Well, let's figure out your background. Because someone just not getting sick doesn't necessarily mean that they're healthy. And it can mean that they're very healthy. But you have to understand where that comes from. What precipitated this status of never getting sick? And what does sick mean to you too? That's another thing. So that's why Jilly Juice is very poorly misunderstood, is because they don't understand the context of which precipitated the events to begin with, and then what they're shooting for, and understand all the different symptoms and manifestations that go along with Jilly Juice, so they get it, so they're not afraid of it. So that's why I'm not in jail. Okay? Yeah, anybody that's promoting all the different herbs, that's why I had gotten very personal on some people, or on these gurus that are out there that are promoting all of these different types of non-regulated cures, is because they're aging rapidly. People are making money off of the temporary cures, because when your body takes on an antibiotic, over time the body will adapt, and then that antibiotic will not inhibit the healing process anymore. The body is going to want to heal, because you can't prevent healing and you can't prevent pathogens. So when you're taking different antibiotics, different cures out there, right? Your body, when you take on that one strain of cannabis for pain, and then you realize that cannabis isn't working anymore, now you got to switch to a different strain. Well, what's going on? Well, you've inhibited the prostaglandin hormone, which is the pain hormone, which aids in the healing process. Okay, so when you inhibit that, because your body's under homeostasis interruptus, you shock the body into submission, and so it did block the prostaglandin hormone for a minute, but then the body adapts. The body's like, okay, now I recognize this poison. We have antibodies that go after that antibody, or that pathogen, which is that strain of weed that you're taking, and now the pain returns. And you're like, what the hell? So then you ask your weed dealer or whoever, hey, give me another strain. And then they're just like, okay, well, here's this one. Try this one. Try Maui Wowie. They're like, oh, yeah, this works. Is great. And then they go, and that's why there's so many different strains of pot, just why there's so many different strains of measles, because the body will adapt to the situation, and then something else will mutate it based upon how you take care of your body. So that's probably why we have so many different vaccines, is because, yeah, the body adapts, and then the body is still mutated. And so then the diseases mutate into something similar of it, but it's a different strain of sorts. So that's why people get, the measles 3 or 4 times. It's mutated, and somebody else gets a mutated version of it, and you get it, and you are only immunized for one strain, but no, there's another strain out there, and you could say that it's the government's fault, or you could say, hey, it's the human's fault. The human is the one that actually mutated it, because they are ignoring and sticking their head in the sand, and they're so pathogenic that they're creating a billion different strains of the same disease, because no one wants to actually tackle the issue. They want to keep doing the cures. So that's why Interpol went after that guy, and why he spent 2 years in jail. See, I was threatened a year ago, back when I was doing the Dr. Phil show, that, oh, you're going to be in jail. You're going to be in jail for killing everybody, for doing this. And just because someone in hospice died didn't mean that it was Jillian, because the reason why the guy died was because he already had a bunch of antibodies in his body that he did not take care of. Jillian's product, or Jillian's recipe, is probiotic. It wouldn't have contributed to Bruce Wilmot's death at all whatsoever. There is nothing antibiotic in Jilly Juice, so that's why Jillian was never held accountable for Bruce Wilmot's death. People can blame me all they want, because they don't know and understand. It's easy to blame the lowest hanging fruit. But no, the reason why I'm not in jail is because Jilly Juice ain't an antibiotic. See, it's about education and knowledge. It's not about just all of these low-hanging fruit hearsay. Let me make up a story because I got nothing else going on, and all I have is the internet to give me, some kind of, credibility. No, if you're going to be an internet person, you better really do your research. Okay? Right, antibacterial is like, but there's good bacterias too, right? See, that's the thing people don't understand is that there's good bacterias. There's good bacterias and bad bacterias. You got to know the difference between the two. And so, yeah, like we said, words make worlds. There's so many different words for the same thing, but it's based upon context and the intention and then the outcome and then the specific measurable results. And so when somebody says, oh yeah, I have this new cure and this guy is rapidly aging and it's going to revolutionize the industry. Oh yeah, like Ray Kurzweil. Oh, I have this cure for prolonging life to immortality. And Ray Kurzweil looks like he's on death's door. You really think that he's someone you should be listening to? That's why I attack sometimes, because you have to look at common sense. If somebody's aging rapidly and they're all talking about how I'm so healthy, are you really healthy if you're aging rapidly? I don't think so, because aging is cell degradation. You're decaying inside. How is that freaking healthy? I don't think so. So yeah, I've been, skewered for going after people because of that. But you know what? I don't care, because that is a common sense thing. If you believe in death, then you're not going to look at Jilly Juice as anything worth, because Jilly Juice says, hey, we don't believe in death. It's not even about belief. We don't think people should die. We're questioning death. Actually, we're questioning death. That's something that is revolutionary. Questioning why death even happens. Well, death happens because you violate the laws, not because it's meant to happen. Nobody means to die. They die because they violated the laws. They're decaying with cancer, disease, and chronic illness because they violated the laws. When you're focusing on child trafficking all the fucking time, every single time, you're focusing on all these different negative political stuff, guess what? That's a contribution to death. Because all you're focusing is on all the death stuff and the things that people do on their way to death. And you're not promoting life at all. So yeah, there's a lot of things people do out there that contribute to the death process because they have no real reason to live. They say, oh yeah, I'm pro-life, but who cares about Granny? See, that's where the doublespeak is that all these pro-life people, I'm a pro-lifer. Politically, it's hypocritical. When you have a political belief system, it's going to make you hypocritical, because the belief systems out there they're tailored to a specific situation, a context, to pit people against each other. But when it really comes down to it, do pro-lifers, are they really pro-life, or are they only politically pro-life so they can make somebody wrong for aborting their baby? When they're willing to give their grandma to the system called a nursing home, are you truly pro-life? Or maybe does baby and grandma deserve to live? And maybe you should shoot for middle age, not for geriatric type of thing. I mean, balance is when you're shooting for middle age and staying at middle age. You grow up, but you don't decay. That's what balance is. And so we have a lot of misinformed people out there who don't know the laws, so they believe all the stories and they live like they are real. And this is what the government has to deal with the conspiracy theorists. Now, as far as the politics, hey, the government creates all this divide and conquer. I don't even get involved. I don't even care. They're all entertainment to me. Trump is entertainment. So is Obama. So is everybody. So is whoever is going to be next. I'm only guessing who's going to be next. Maybe Charlie Sheen will be running for president in the next couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised. If there is anything coming to my door and I'm in imminent danger, I will act accordingly. Other than that, I'm in no danger at all. You promote good values. What is that? You promote life in your world. Your kids won't be a victim of child trafficking. Don't worry about what happens down the street, because you have no control over that. You have control over your own kids, your own family, your own immediate universe. Don't worry about what somebody else is doing. Worry about yourself in your own backyard. So this is why Jilly Juice is not in jail. This is why I'm not in jail, because I'm not dealing with antibiotics and herbs. So all of you that are playing with the herbs and are like, oh God, the police are going and searching for this guy's cancer cure, the herb. Well, if it is a Schedule 1 drug and it's illegal, then there's a reason behind it. It's not because the government wants out to get you. There's a reasoning behind it. Okay? So this is what the government has to deal with. They have to deal with completely moronic people, but it's not through no fault of their own. They're listening to the internet. They don't understand logic. A lot of mutated people who don't get it. And, you know, and this is why we're having issues with the anti-vax stuff, because you got to have for the public health to understand, for us to maintain public health in our society, maintain a level of health in our society, especially in the Western world, we have to have a certain amount of antibodies. And if there's new diseases present, regardless of where you think it came from, you got to have an antibody. Either be exposed to it, but if you're exposed to it, you have a weak body, then you could die from it. So you might as well, if you're not going to take care of your body, because they can't legislate morals, if you can't take care of your body, then yeah, you should get some kind of antibody-inducing type of thing that will give you a few layers of protection. No, it's not. You're going to get mutated, yes, but you know what? Now with Jilly Juice, you have a chance to actually fix some mutations because of new diseases coming up. And this whole vaccine schedule is reflective of humanity, not because the vaccine industry is doing this to you. No, this is reflective of humanity, because the kids from the 1983 people are 2019. 2019 are the kids from the parents of 1983. So every single reproduction, every single child from any type of union is from a mutation, and then diseases mutate based upon that. And so then you have probably like 10 different strains of influenza because they've been mutated by people who don't care about their bodies. But you can't legislate morals. Again, you can't tell them to stop doing drugs. You can't tell them to eat their vegetables. You can't tell them to stop drinking alcohol. You can't tell that to people. So then guess what? We have to react. And guess what the CDC is doing? They're reacting to humanity's ignorance of their body. And now we have a chance to actually not be ignorant about your body and do something about it. But in the meantime, you live in a society where they have to treat everybody the same. They got to. They can't go and do an individual case by case, say, hey, well, it looks like that you practice Jilly Juice, so you're not held to this account. No, if Jilly Juice is so strong and so amazing, I'm not going to be afraid of disease. I'm not going to be afraid of bacteria or aluminum or pathogens unless I'm stuck in a gas chamber back in World War II. That would be the only reason why I would die from pathogens and bacteria. Other than that, I have Jilly Juice, my immune system, and I have strategic nutrition. That's all I care about. That's why I'm not in jail. All right. So anyways, I'm going to go, but I'm going to go hang out with my husband because it's Sunday. But you guys have a good day. Go to jillyjuice.com, get the book. This is the book. This will give you the recipe, and then you have the science of what I actually submitted, but not in the same format, but it's in readership format that I submitted to the OAG. And I do have the vaccine debate in here, but my next book is going to actually put that to rest. And I will be reconfiguring my paper yet again on Monday to have it reflect my current mentality. So I'm not coming off like a freaking conspiracy theorist, so I can finally reach the masses. And Kevin is going to like that. And Kevin is doing the same thing too. He doesn't want to come off as a niche thing. We're trying to reach not only the conspiracy theorists, but the mainstreamers as well. So no matter what it is I said 5 or 6 years ago, I'm actually, or 3 or 4 years ago, I'm actually doubling back and admitting to, yeah, I was in a certain mentality, and now I see the error of my ways, and hopefully some of you will actually see the error of your ways. And if you don't ever want to see the error of your ways, then yeah, you'll be on that death trajectory because you can't even hold your own self accountable. What makes you think you're going to hold all the presidents and the child trafficking accountable if you can't even hold yourself accountable? So good luck to you. All right, jillyjuice.com will send you a login and password once you send us the receipt, okay? And the email is on my website. You guys have a good day. jillyjuice.com, JILLYJUICE.com. Happy Sunday. Bye.